So we've all heard about becoming that girl, you know, the one who seems to have it all together. And not just probably seems to have it all together, she probably does have everything together. But what if becoming her isn't just about fitting a certain type of mold, but to live in a way that you continuously show up for yourself? In this video, I'm sharing my journey to living authentically so that you can feel empowered to do the same. Wishes and prayers for this eyebrow, because for the past 5 minutes I've been trying to fix it, but it's just unfixable today, so we'll ignore it. So lately there's been a lot of talk about how to be that girl or becoming her, and I feel like oftentimes it's mostly turning around the same type of topics, such as she looks a certain way, she has a certain hair length, she has a certain amount in her bank account. So I wouldn't mind that part, but that's okay. But I feel like if we really think about it, and if we maybe take a softer approach to this topic, I feel there's much more interesting stuff to discover. And I feel that there's so much more to life than just, you know, being the best version of yourself by simply waking up at 5 a.m. every morning, which is something I certainly do not do. And I don't see myself doing it in the near future. If you're one of these people, good for you, but I feel like I don't need the perfect 5 a.m. morning routine, because just no, okay? No. So I'm a bit of a busy bee this morning. As you can see, I already became her for today for the sake of looking like a regular person before my dentist hairdo is gonna take over. So I have to enjoy it for a little bit. I have to go and get flowers, which actually is super nice because the weather is so lovely today. And they're for my friend who's going to be transitioning today from being an assistant surgeon to a full-on surgeon. I don't know how to say it in English, but like it's kind of a big deal, and she's kind of a big deal, so she deserves some flowers. And then I probably need to clean the apartment to make myself appear as though I'm a regular 35-year-old woman who has her SHIT together, and then I'm off to work. Okay, so handbag. I need to add some perfume. Not too much so that my patients aren't gonna vomit later. Not that that has happened. Oops. And I need my sunglasses that are super dirty. Let's give them a little clean. Okay, that should be fine. And I'm quickly gonna cycle to the florist, and then life can continue. So ultimately, what do I mean by becoming her to myself? Maybe we should start the story by starting with the end. So I'm currently 35 years old, I'm a dentist, and I live in Germany. But things have not always been this way. So after I graduated from high school, I didn't really know where I wanted to go. Or what I mean more by that is that I knew exactly where I wanted to be. It's just that I didn't know how I could be that version of myself. And by that, I mean especially career-wise. I have known from a very young age that I had always wanted to be a dentist, but I never really dared to take the plunge into actively applying to dental school, which is a whole topic on its own. But I was just too scared and didn't think I would persevere, and I didn't think I would do very well. Yet at the same time, I always knew I wanted to have a gap year after graduating from high school because I wanted to go to Finland. So I did that, and when it was time to leave Finland and go back to Germany in order to start a degree, I actually decided to stay in Finland and apply for university there, because I felt at the time that I didn't have a chance of, you know, becoming a dentist anyway. And at the same time, at that point, I had wanted to stay in Finland and see what life could look like there after all. So I went to business school instead, graduated from there, and then I started my adult life working for an organization. But deep down, I always felt kind of resentful about not even having tried going to dental school, because I was always thinking in the back of my head that this is something I'd much rather do and that I'd find more interesting. And I actually started to not resent, but I started questioning a lot of choices in my life. And I could really feel that I'm not really where I had envisioned myself to be at a certain age. So for example, while I was working in corporate, in a job that ultimately was a bit more of a plan B scenario rather than being my true dream, I also at the same time found myself in a relationship where I knew that maybe this isn't really going where it should be going. But at the same time, even though I knew that I wasn't really where I wanted to be, or I wasn't really the person I had wanted myself to be, things weren't uncomfortable enough at this point for me to actually do a radical change. So even with this relationship, even though I had known for the longest time that we're not necessarily a good fit, yet deep down I was able to sort of use it in order to justify hiding my dreams or myself behind it. But the more time moved on and the less I did, I started to feel that for somebody in my 20s, I'm building up a life that is already full on what ifs and regrets. And I didn't want to live that way anymore. And so when I was 27, I actually went back to university in order to pursue my second degree. And that was difficult. And it sounds so mundane, but that was really difficult because already at that point, I had an established career, I had a steady income, I was living super comfortably, life was pretty decent, but I just felt that there's so much more to discover. And so going back to university in my case meant that I needed to move back to Germany, to a city that I had previously been to once, and that was, I think, let me check, 8 years before I moved there myself. It meant starting a challenging 5-year program, and I had no idea if I would make it out of there alive or if I'll actually make it through the entire program. And that was super scary because I knew that if I failed that, I don't know where to go. I mean, in hindsight, of course, I would have found a different job, or I would have gone back to Finland, or God knows what, but that felt really severe. And then the other thing that felt very severe was giving up my safe income for basically monopoly money for 5 years, and also not really knowing beforehand how to finance the whole thing. Oh, and of course I also had to end that relationship, and that was also scary because I had been in that relationship for, I don't know, 7 years, and also before that I hadn't really been single for the longest time, and being by myself for the first time in such a long time felt really scary. And you know, I don't know about you, but me, when I was 20 and when I had envisioned myself at age 27, I did not think I would be a broke student in the first semester, single, in a really small flat. I think it was much more elaborated than that. So basically, in order to become myself, or in order to become that girl, I had to be the probably most anti-version I had wanted myself to be at a certain age. Had somebody asked me at age 20 what I would envision myself to be like in the end of my 20s. But let me tell you, it was worth it. Because fast forward to where I'm now, I'm not a broke student anymore. I'm working in a job I had always wanted to work in. And most importantly, I have been able to show myself that I'm capable of much more than I thought I would be capable of. And this sounds like such a cliche, but this is ultimately where I want this video to lead to, is that when you find yourself in a position where you're able to show yourself, or where you can see for yourself that you're able to achieve something you previously had thought you never ever going to achieve it. That's where the magic happens. Career-wise, but also mentally-wise or character-wise, I'm really glad that I took this plunge, even though, you know, I knew beforehand that it's going to be super difficult and also super challenging. But sometimes I even get this like yucky feeling of like, oh my god, what if I hadn't done that? And I don't even want to imagine it because it's so like... because I was that close to not doing it, and I think I would have really regretted it because, yeah. That time was so crucial and so important to me because I was able to discover myself from a whole different perspective, and I purposely decided to stay by myself during those years so that I was actually able to define for myself who I actually am and what I actually want, rather than trying to fit my life to somebody else's life expectations or circumstances. So by doing something that I had previously thought of being super difficult, I was discovering capabilities that I didn't even know I had. And I feel like due to me knowing who I am and having stood up for myself at a time where it really mattered, also means that I can be a better person to other people, as cliche as that might sound. So what's my message to you? My message to you is that it's good to be ambitious. It's good to figure out what being that girl means to you rather than trying to fit into a certain mold. It is ultimately about becoming a version that you're proud to be. And this can often mean choosing discomfort and taking risks in order to live the life of your dreams. And also rather than living by somebody else's timelines or standards. So in a way, I want you to challenge norms, because becoming the best version of yourself certainly looks different from me, for example, or from your friends. Also, don't shy away from discomfort. And I don't mean for you to take it to extremes, like maybe I did, even though looking back, it doesn't seem like so much of a big deal, but it kind of was, but you know what I'm trying to say. Honestly, a lot of growth oftentimes comes by being uncomfortable and also risky choices. This is a note to myself as I'm preparing for my 5K. Also, don't shy away from old dreams. If there's really something that you want for your life, why not give it a go? If fear of failure is the only thing that's holding you back from going from A to B, don't let that happen. And sometimes you can start small, because not every path of becoming her needs to be this big ass, fat ass project. It can just be something as small as, I don't know, cooking a healthy meal for yourself in the evening. Now look at me giving some life advice. Oh, and it's never too late. Life doesn't end at 30, 40 or 50, and reinvention can happen at any time. So I really hope you got something out of this video. My hair is full on greasy by like pulling it back the whole time, but not pulling it back too much so you can see my thinking ears. You know, the type of ears when you get when you do too much thinking. Oh my god. Let's hide it. And I hope that you're not in full-on yeah but mode. Do you know what I mean by that? Because I remember when I got my acceptance letter to Hogwarts. Just kidding. Oh my god, you know, adults who still think Harry Potter is going on, do not get me started. Okay, so because I remember when I got my acceptance letter to dental school and I started walking around and asking my friends if I should do it or not. And I was giving them all these arguments as to why I shouldn't go. And they would tell me all the arguments as to why I should go. I was in full yeah but mode, you know, this like, yeah but I don't think I can do XYZ, or yeah but this isn't gonna work. So don't get me started. I feel like I've done my share for today. It's 3:15 now. That means that the day has progressed too much, so I can't go running anymore. Remember how the big change comes from discomfort? I mean mentally, not physically. Not in my case. I feel like for today I probably have done enough, because my feeling of uncomfortable at the moment comes from talking to the void. Alright, I'll leave it at there because it's not going to get any better, and I hope to see you in my next video, and I hope you got something out of it, and let me know how you're doing.